We'll start, and so on the agenda, we have first and foremost visitors and staff to be heard. Anyone? No? Next on the agenda would be the introduction of our new assistant principal, Mr. Ben Johnson.
So,
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
so I would like to take the opportunity to welcome Ben to our school and our district. Just want the board to know that he was one of 5 individuals interviewed in a very competitive situation, and he brings a lot to the team. I'm really excited to have him join the team. And I say our team, both the high school team and the CTE team. Moving forward, you're going to hear from him in a moment, in particular on restorative practices, where he's had some experience, and he'll talk to you about that. But this is the first hire I've had, for those of you who are on the board, in terms of an assistant principal in my 13th year. And so I took it very seriously, and I'm very pleased that we offered the position to Ben. So Ben, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here. Appreciate it very much.
And Rob wanted me to ask, that's a slight change in the agenda, that we're going to move the restorative justice practice discussion up now so that Ben can.
See, I want Ben to come back tomorrow.
We thought it would be prudent
Yes.
to welcome him and then have him do a presentation for us as a person.
I did get to miss bedtime, so.
So welcome.
Take
Yeah.
it away.
Great. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks a lot. I am an Essex Junction resident as well. I live on the other side of the fairgrounds. So one of my daughters is at Hiawatha. My other 2, I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So they'll be coming up through the school district soon. So I'm, just really excited to be here. So one of the things, Rob had asked me to come and maybe talk a little bit about restorative practice, and maybe where we could kind of maybe a jumping off point for us as a school and as a district also, of what we can do to get started. Aaron and I actually, timing worked out nice, because we had previously just met on and exchanged some ideas and met on where to move forward, because her and I both spent some time on the Chittenden County Restorative Justice group that meets monthly, and so we had had some experience with some of the ideas before that. And so what I'll just stop, kind of initial steps, is one, to really, what are we looking for? I mean, what is the reason for, I put RP, restorative practice, restorative justice. I use those terms, and a lot of people do interchangeably. What do we want it to accomplish? Why is that being talked about with folks? Some typical ones, at least, I spent the last 13 years in Burlington, 3 as assistant principal at the high school in Burlington. So we've been doing some of this work, but, and so through my experience, some of the examples I list, obviously they're not all of the examples people would give for wanting to move in a restorative practice, but one is reducing overall suspension rates for all students, reducing the achievement gap, reducing disproportionate suspension numbers between student groups, students with disabilities versus students without disabilities, students of color versus students who are white. The idea of the pipeline to prison. This is a lot of people have jumped on board with restorative practice with the idea of pipeline to prison. Our current discipline practices are with some student groups, especially students of color, is moving that students on a path to prison. So, kind of what we do with this, and I think the first part we jump into is review of current discipline policies and procedures, and we kind of start there. We use a restorative lens. So, if you look at our handbook for the district and for the high school specifically, where I'm at, do we use restorative language? Are they restorative practices that are there? That's a good place to start. You have the idea of zero tolerance policies. Not necessarily restorative. First offense, you'll be out for 15 days. Well, there's not a lot of restorative language there, so I think that's a good place. Make that document a little more welcoming for folks. The idea of we want to pull students in instead of push them out. The before of coming to my office, I'm going to spend 10 days. That's just pushing kids away. We want to pull kids back in. We want them in our school. One thing I say a lot about discipline is around. We're a school to teach and for kids to learn, and a discipline practice by just suspending a kid and getting him out of our building. There's not a lot of teaching and learning happening there, and I think the idea of restorative practice is an idea of it extends that teaching and learning through the process. really taking a look at our referral system. What's it feel like, what's it sound like, and what's it look like? Are we giving students an option for a restorative process? People can stop me with questions at any point in time. But I will say I've only been on the job since July 28th. That's a big one, because one thing is, even in Burlington when we were doing this, I guess they're saying they, because I'm not part of that we anymore. I'm the part of the we here.
Did he get his tattoo? The Angry Hornet?
Yes, he's got the angry one.
Is that there are people doing restorative practices in your district. I mean, there's people at the high school and at tech center that are doing restorative practice. One, they're not publicizing it, and two, they may be calling it something else, because now restorative practice is kind of a buzzword. I mean, it's not like this is all brand new stuff that somebody just invented. So one thing for me is I don't want to come in and say, oh, we need to change all this. Obviously, we need to take time to celebrate what some people are doing right now, because there is a lot of it happening.
And can I just add to
Yeah.
your student groups that in the tech center, we see a lot of economically disadvantaged students.
Definitely.
And that's definitely
Yep.
Yeah, that's
one of the groups.
very big one. Also, one of the easy wins for sort of practices at the administrative level of just the way our using restorative language, the way that we are, walking through, every kind of incident that happens in our building. And these right here these are like the posters of restorative justice, but there's business cards and posters that specifically deal with these questions. Kind of like what happened, what were you thinking at the time, what have you thought about since, who has been affected by what's been done and how, what has been the hardest part for you, what do you think you need to do to make things right. These are just a simple way we just change the way we do business. One thing is to identifying a support team of faculty and students. We got to bring together the people who are interested in moving forward in the work of restorative practice. We need that faculty-student buy-in. The one thing that's nice is Essex Middle School has been doing a lot of great work in restorative practice. Kevin Briggs over there and some of his teachers and students. So we have some students who are coming into our building right now. And ADL's been doing some work too. So we're having some students come in from 8th grade that have been doing the work and are interested and ready to continue the work here at the high school. Access to training. We need some in-house folks who are trained in restorative justice. Right. Actually, I'm gonna talk on some of these. We collaborate. I think a lot of the Chittenden County schools right now collaborate with their CJCs, which is great. But that does not having the expertise necessarily like living in our schools like we do with other things. I think we need to start by training our own folks in restorative practice, and that may mean partnering with like the International Restorative Justice kind of group out of Philadelphia is a big one that does a lot of work. We have currently Essex does, and other Chittenden County schools has. There's a monthly restorative justice group who meets to talk about what's happening in their schools, how people are moving forward on the work. It's kind of a support group at the same time and a kind of an idea generator of where to go. But for me, and this is just my own thought out of being part of that group for over a year now, and working closely with the different CJCs and different work is, you never know what direction the CJC is going to go in. And if all the expertise lies with them and we don't have any left in our building, and we're the people who are here every day, we need to have some of those people who work and live in our building. So some of what I'm going to talk about next is based off of work from John Kidda. John Kidda was instrumental in the Oakland Unified School District in Oakland, California, moved to become a restorative district, and John Kidda was a major part of that work. He actually lives in Virgins now, and it does work closely with a lot of Chittenden County schools. I know Aaron and John have worked very closely together. And so he has given permission for anybody who goes to his trainings to use a lot of his work. And so some of this is just based off of his. Some of the around discipline in schools, like the primary concerns is kind of like the policy violation versus relationships. The old way of doing business was you violated this policy, you're gone. This is your punishment. But now it's about relationships, how both parties were affected, how you can kind of restore harm that's taken place. Kind of the messages we send, historically, the policy violation is the biggest deal. We had a rule, you broke it. That means everything to us. And the primary response focuses on the offender. So the person that comes into administrator's office is the person who did something wrong. And that whatever punishment happens is what equals justice. I mean, people could read those sides. But kind of the restorative practice, it's about the people and the wrongdoing. And relationships are harmed and needs are created. So there's a needs of both the person who committed the offense and also some people use, want to stay away from victim, but in this it's like, the victim of what happened also. So one of the things that I always talk about, because we were doing a lot of this work in Burlington, and of course there's a lot of folks who are about the pound of flesh. Like, this kid, I need to see this kid in trouble. I need to make sure they know what happened and that it was wrong. And I got to tell you, my argument to them was, well, right now, administrators and school folks, we don't have a ton of different things that we can use. And for they think being suspended is being held accountable. Well, restorative practice has way more avenues to hold somebody accountable for their actions. I got to tell you, sometimes if you suspend a kid for a day, it's done after a day. You could go through a restorative practice that takes 3 weeks with a student of having them, meet with people they offended, meet with other people who were harmed, doing some real work, around, their feelings, their emotions, and things like that. So it's actually, when you get into people who are anti-restorative practices, there's no accountability there. The argument is that there's way more accountability in restorative practice than there is in kind of the old way folks have done business. And just, I really like this image right here, mainly because it changed the way I thought about restorative practice. When I thought about restorative practices in schools, when I was first getting introduced to it, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get all of these referrals that I'm receiving from teachers, and there were a lot of them. Boy, how am I going to be able to do a restorative practice and have time for each one of these referrals? And somebody showed me this image, and actually, restorative practice isn't about discipline and fractions, it's about building culture and community. So if you're building a restorative culture and community, that's where the time and energy comes into. So in Burlington, I set up a student group over last year to become circle keepers. So a lot of restorative practices around the power of the circle, where all people are equal in a circle and people can communicate their feelings the way they're feeling, in a circle. And it's about just developing a school climate that's a restorative where all students have voice. And so this is where a lot of your time comes. And then when you move into like the tier 2, is where you're spending less of your time with infraction of like you committed an infraction, now we need to go through a restorative process. And then the third piece at the top is when you do have to remove a student from from the school. I mean, there's some infractions that we if a student brings drugs, weapons, or acts of severe violence, I mean, there's going to be a need for removal. But it's what we do to reintegrate those students back into our school community. Because I think previously what's happened in the past is you suspend a student, you have a reentry meeting. Hey, how do you feel? Are you going to commit the same infractions? No, I'm fine. They're back in school. Well, but are they really back in school? Because I think some of our students who are repeat offenders, right, don't feel that connection back in school. That's why they've reoffended. And I feel restorative practice then helps with that reintegration of how do we welcome these students back into our buildings. So that's just a quick, hey, how do we hit the ground running? And like I said, and actually, Erin and I think we have a meeting tomorrow too.
Yes, I think so.
On the book. So we've already started some of this work to talk about, where can we kind of jump in. And I got to say, Donna was actually with us at the end of that last meeting, and is going to be with us tomorrow too. So we are, working with the tech center too, and how do we come together as a team, because we really can't have one part of our building not doing restorative practice and another part of our building doing it, so we are working together.
We also, thanks to Ben, included in your org notes some of the research behind it and the implementation, and it really behooves the board to become really smart on what we're doing moving forward as far as some of the objectives and the outcomes to expect. So I appreciated Ben providing us with that literature, and hopefully you'll have some time to review it. And again, come with questions so that we can continue to build our understanding and the culture of restorative practice that we're trying to move forward with.
I think in particular, this board has indicated an interest in learning more about restorative practices and, perhaps revisiting some of the somewhat old style thinking of the policies that currently exist and how students get to take ownership for their behavior moving forward. So appreciate Ben joining the team, and
Yes.
with the work with Essex Town Middle School, ADL, and obviously moving forward with the new district, this is a lot of stars aligning at the right time. So having seen the policies as back as early as 1980, and some of them haven't changed one letter in all that time, it's fairly relevant. So I appreciate that, Ben.
And I wanted to also add that in our parent-guardian student handbook, I'm going to continue to apologize until
Handbook.
I'm more inclusive.
Handbook.
Our student handbook. Thank you for forgiving.
Whoops, sorry.
I wanted to make sure we took full advantage of having Ben join our leadership team, and one day we spent just going through our handbook, and in places that said, and you're suspended, or some kind of consequence that seemed pretty final, we inserted the language that there will be administrative response. So that's one of the things that you'll start seeing, that the areas that have changed have all been bolded, and you'll see our way of communicating. And hopefully parents will read the handbook because it is our major way of communicating with families. And whatever we can do to encourage that's critically important, and engage their families with this handbook. So we're careful because we're just learning some of these practices, but want to start to create the climate culture for change.
Yeah,
Also,
go ahead.
talking about the kids coming up from ADL and Essex Middle School, I know some of the kids that were 8th graders last year coming in have gone out and spoken at different conferences on restorative justice. So tagging some of those kids who are,
Yeah, I met with both Kevin and
Perfect.
Devin, so to get, I
you get
have
the
a list of
names,
student
yeah.
names. of the
And
students.
coincidentally, he's the 9th grade administrator.
fantastic.
Yeah, so.
Not so consequent.
Well,
That was perfect.
there's a reason.
Well, and restorative practice fits in well with the conversation we were just having around different student groups and their needs. And restorative practice really just inherently addresses the difference between.
And from a community lens, it has a lot to, and a lot of things that are going on in the community right now, this model, as opposed to some of the models that we're used to. And I would make a pitch for CJC, their Circle of Support and Accountability, COSA. They're always looking for volunteers, so if anybody wants to get more familiar with that work, their panels and their COSA work, they're doing some great stuff there. So that's an opportunity to partner and take it outside of the school, and hopefully that school-community relationship will continue to improve.
It's worth saying too that we have met with
Jill,
Evans
yeah,
and had
I'm
some
sure.
Great dialogue with her about, as we're starting to move forward, what that collaboration might look like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I just wanted to lend you my support for your efforts, because they're really important. When I left IBM and I went into law enforcement locally here, is we looked at literally tens of thousands of criminal histories, and there's an escalation that starts off slowly and builds, and it just until they do really major crimes. This particular work, in which Rob and I, we've talked at the boards here for the last 5 years about how do we define a student in good standing, and I've come to a conclusion about that, not only is it an offense, or the severity of the offense, but it's the frequency between the offenses. And and that's new for me, to understand that if we don't have a planned response within a certain time frame, it can continue at a very high rate. So support your effort and just let us know. I'm on the policy committee for the Unified Union, and they can be these policies can be modified. So, we're looking for some input from you.
Thank you. I'm super excited about being
Thanks,
here.
Ben.
So thanks for having me. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
It's great.
Thank you, Ben.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you for coming here.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much,
Okay.
Ben.
So next is the consent agenda. I believe at this time I would ask if there is anyone that would like to remove from this for further discussion. Anyone? No? So we have on the consent agenda tonight approval of warrants, approved meeting minutes of June 6th and July 25th, the principal's report, affirm the parent guardian student handbook, VHI petition, request for activity support and approval of bank resolution. So, I had just a question about the handbook.
Okay. So why don't you pull it?
Okay, so I'm
you
gonna
pull it.
request that we pull the handbook.
And does the board need any further conversation about the VHI petition? You didn't really have a chance to discuss it, but if you're ready.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind pulling that just a discussion.
Okay, so we'll pull the VHI as well. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the handbook and the VHI? So, the question that I had on the handbook, Judy, was very simple. We've talked about it before, but I just wanted to refresh myself on, the parents, there's always a sign-off on the handbook, right? So the handbook is distributed,
Mm-hmm.
and then is there some sort of like a sheet that someone would sign off to say, I got it? Obviously, you can't confirm that they've read it, but at least they can confirm that they got it, right? And was there some discussion of eventually going to an electronic way to do that, or have we done that yet?
So I think you're referring to the very first page of the handbook that says your signature green, you have read the handbook, serves as your acknowledgement and acceptance of the expectation within the handbook and the technology use agreement. Your signature indicates you agree to abide by conditions and guidelines herein. The school will provide a form requesting your required signature. So the principals,
In the tech center, we send signature pages home, we collect them back, and we set a date within the first couple of weeks that we expect all signature pages to be back. Any student who doesn't return a signature page meets with an administrator, and we confirm 100%, or we don't let students continue in the programs until they do provide a signature page. That's in the tech center. It's easier. We're dealing with fewer numbers of students.
We do it in the advisory program, and it's an ongoing issue to get 1,200 signatures returned, but it may not be quite as
Like
quick.
I said, ours is a little
Quick.
bit more compact.
But, yeah, we work hard to get those signed and returned.
and is that the time that you'll review with the student's signature and advisory, the bolded and
Yes, that's
Changes.
that's what we do typically. Like last year was HHB, in the sense that we merged into one policy, so that was one of the boldened areas, and we would do a similar review as well. It should be noted, the advisory, just for your information, is typically held every Wednesday with academic support for students scheduled Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. However, the first 15, 18 days of school, when kids come back, we don't have the academic support because realistically, kids usually don't need support after a few days of school. So this is where we can build in some of those activities, evacuation drills, knowing where they go, et cetera, et cetera. So there's plenty to do in that time frame. We just substitute or front load that at the beginning. And safety is another large area that we collectively talk about. And we actually had a conversation about it today when we were meeting, relocation drills and things of that nature, so.
And the tech center covers the top tens, the commonly made mistakes.
Yep.
Just to remind students why they're mistakes and how to avoid them. So knives as tools or weapons. Hunting season and bows and things like that. But just because we said it doesn't mean they learned it, and it requires a lot more time.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, just a point. At the first meeting in October,
Third.
46,
October
third,
3rd.
could you provide the board with a compliance number, percentage, or outstanding that have not been signed?
I'll use the positive, those that have turned it in, yes. The
Turned it
positive,
in,
yes.
Turned it in. Because incidents do occur. We do have to have those special meetings. And I just don't like to see the board caught in a situation where a student can say that they don't know anything about the policies and have not signed the forms,
Mhm.
especially when it's a serious disciplinary matter.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Recommendation.
Sounds good. And Vihai, did you have a question, Daniel?
Yeah,
or-
I just noticed in the letter here, it says for reasons that became obvious over the past year relating to decisions drafted in the VI plan. So I don't know what, I mean, aside from the fact that obviously the NEA has a lot of influence, right, and for the plan, was there anything in particular, I guess, in the discussions ongoing, about the new VI plans where it became obvious that the school board association needed an extra voice? I mean, from what I see here also, so 3 of the 5 are appointed by school district or school boards, right?
Right.
So
That don't represent any particular
They
one,
don't,
like
right.
one superintendent, one school board member, and one administrator.
Okay, so they don't necessarily represent school boards as a whole, but they could, in theory, they're selected by school boards, so it could be representing, it could be a school board member, right?
Right, so-
Yeah, that one school district. So, yeah, they
Yeah.
have one administrator, one, school board member, what's the other one?
So out of the 5-member board,
Mhm.
just get to that page. There's one superintendent that sits on the board, one business manager,
Okay.
and then one board member. So just those 3, and then the other 2 seats are Vermont NEA seats. So they have the opportunity with this resignation coming up to change the composition of the board and include another board member at large, the SBA board member, which you are all.
This would bring it to 6 total. They're
No,
add,
it'll stay a 5-member.
stay 5, but they're gonna bump, okay. They're gonna add, okay.
So
Okay.
trying to balance out that representation and feel that school boards are the ones responsible
Mm-hmm.
for negotiating healthcare benefits. And because that responsibility lies with you through negotiated agreements, that your ability to be at the table is imperative. So I think that's why they were recommending the shift. And as you see in all the colored papers, all the boards that have made that decision to date and who signed off on the petition. Now, just because they sign off on the petition doesn't mean it automatically happens. Then it goes to a vote. But this at least will give the information that this is the interest of school boards across the state in seeing the composition of the committee change.
When does
Is
the
that
vote
helpful?
take place?
It takes place, the bylaws will be amended at a special annual meeting, if this vote does not occur prior to October 21, 2016, one of the two incumbent Vermont NEA members may claim entitlement to a new 6-year term. So they're going to be voting on these bylaws at a special meeting and it has to happen before October 21st. I don't have the exact date in front of me.
So the representation could potentially be changed as we go into the new rate
Yes.
season and
Yes, the
everything.
new plans.
So, the new plans. Okay, well, we'll stay tuned on that one.
Yes, we will.
That's a good way to put it.
Was there any other discussion on that at all? No. So the next agenda item was the 2018 budget process, I believe. Do I have that?
Thank you very much. I didn't put together a slide presentation because I'm still trying to figure out what the process has looked like, much less going forward. I also have 4 days less than Ben.
But who's counting?
That's- Yeah, you haven't approved your,
Oh, sorry, guys.
We haven't, yeah.
Okay, so we should probably separately approve the handbook
So, so do them separately?
did you vote?
We didn't vote.
No, they didn't
We
vote.
Yeah, I
made a
didn't think you
motion.
voted.
Kathy motioned,
Kathy moved
Daniel
it.
seconded, but we didn't vote.
Right.
So,
So you want to just vote?
Call the question on the consent agenda and the items that you agreed to move forward.
Okay. So does anybody want to move that we can move forward with the consent agenda now that we have discussed those two items?
Yeah, we-
Kathy moved
did
and
that.
Daniel
Okay.
second. So
yep,
now
so now
you're,
we just
We
need to
just
get a
vote?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was it unanimous?
It is.
Yes.
5-0. Do you want to do the handbook next, or do you want to wait until Deke presents and then do both of them together?
I don't care. Let's do that. Why don't we do you want to just get the handbook over with? Yeah, so we'll just vote on the handbook. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Nay? So I think it's unanimous. Is that good? Well done.
Behi? And,
So we voted on VHI and we voted on handbook.
but we didn't make a vote about, anyway, it's okay, we can do.
So what you could do is say this. Entertain a motion to affirm the parent guardian student handbook and the VHI petition.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to affirm the handbook and the VHI discussion? Thank you, Al. Daniel, second. Now we vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Perfect.
Unanimous. I'll get the hang of it. And now, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
It's great. It's so much nicer to be sitting here. Again, I'm really just trying to pull all the threads and getting them figured out a little bit. Had a really good session today with Marilyn Fredericks on the new chart of accounts that's going to be coming out of the state. There's a lot of things changing all at once. Not the least of which is what's going on with Rec and Parks, or may not go on with Rec and Parks. And the fact that we're changing financial systems, at least on the CCSU and the district side. We are going to the system that's used by Essex Town, but I promised them that they will get changes as well, just to be fair. Trying to carve out what a very linear budget process, and this is going to take me another month. But we are already starting to work on several things. The salary and benefit assumptions are being put together in HR. We're working together on what those look like, because there are negotiations that have to take place to get joint contracts between the SU and its districts and Essex Town. So that's going on now. We're keeping an eye on that. What I'm going to be working on in the next 2 weeks is converting the FY17 budget to what it would look like if it were a single district. And so we have to we don't have to do that, but it's wiser, I think, to do that so that the two budgets will actually align. There's a lot of reimbursements and those, mostly reimbursements and assessments that are all go away, and we have to kind of strip all that out and get down to what it looks like. So once we do that, the other thing is that safety for me, because I don't want to come in here and say, look, I saved you $2 million, except I forgot $3 million worth of stuff, because I don't have a good base budget to make that judgment on. And I'm never going to tell you I'm the smartest person in the room. I need plenty of safety nets. So that's going to be, that's the first important piece of work, and I want to show you and the new board what that budget looks like, because nobody would have seen that stripped out. So that's going on, Essex Town, that's going on. I think by the end of September, we'll have all of that in place, and by your October meeting, really begin to talk nuts and bolts about how all of that works. The UU board is the Unified Union Board is the one that will approve it. We will also have a process to come in and take feedback from you folks, because obviously you're the experts in that. You've been dealing with it for a while. So part of that process will be coming in here, showing you what we're thinking on all the pieces. I view this as an additive piece, at least this year. I don't, we're gonna have a high school budget. We'll have we have to have those component budgets. Even, you can roll it up any way you want, but in the end, the administrators need to know what they have to spend. So it'll be an Excel spreadsheet for this year with every tab, and everybody will have their budgets, and they'll know what they're doing. So that's what's going on. I know they're looking at students and looking at how many sections of everything we are going to project for 2018, and how many English classes and so forth. That's all starting. So I'm not an expert, but I'm learning an awful lot every day. So I'm also trying to get my hands on the capital plans for both districts, and Westford's is done separately. So there's a lot of pieces that we have to chase down.
But just think when there's one, and all the pieces are together of that pre-K-12. Tech will be separate, and it'll be interesting. Well, it'll at least still be part of a continuum that people will see, and we're still going to think through how we'll develop the Essex Junction Recreation and Parks going forward too, just because of their timeline of the vote. So those are pieces that speak to the complexity that will be simplified after this year, I hope. To some degree, at least we'll have the basic, we'll do a patchwork quilt of the budget this year. But I'm so confident in the way Deke has approached the work, and bringing in a brand new financial system, and the relationship she's created with both entities in such a few short weeks has been noteworthy and promising.
Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Thank you very much. So the next agenda item I saw as community communication, and I did not put this agenda together, so I'll need guidance from you, Judy, on what exactly that was.
So one of the things that we're taking sort of a page out of the new Essex Westford School District board, is asking the question at the end of your board meetings as far as what are the communications that you'd like to share with the community after this board meeting. Is there anything that Liz actually is a person who instilled this as a good best practice for community communications? So and she can speak to it now as well. They identify those areas they think the community would be interested in getting some bites and pieces of, so they continue to have a constant flow of information. And during the course of this year, the community will have to keep updated on the work of both the local boards and the new board. So we thought that just putting together at least some topics or a person who is interested in communicating out would be helpful. So it's just an opportunity for the board to revisit the evening and see at your local board level what's worthy of communicating.
And we do, do 3. So if there's 15 things, we just limit it to 3 at every meeting. And then we post it on the blog, and then it's available if somebody doesn't want to read the minutes, which are always, of course, available. It's a quick way to just say, this was what we did. And it would,
are you looking for some things, so like for this meeting, or you?
I think it's good practice to do it
thought.
for every meeting, just
Okay.
to have those bullets. It's,
agree.
it's,
Are there any thoughts of anything that anybody thinks we should kind of bullet from this meeting?
I
Well,
would
we-
communicate the process by which people accept the handbook and sign and make sure
I
that's a
think that's a big
reminder.
one. Because,
Yeah.
So-
it reaffirms it for everybody, you know?
okay.
Importance of
So
it.
Judy said an important thing, which is that there's a person who does this on our board, which is me or Keely or both. And so I'd be happy to do it for this board too. If we, what happens at our other, at the UU board is I draft it and then I send it to Martha and she reviews it. She's the chair of the UU board. And then it gets sent to Keely, who posts it on the blog. So I would imagine in this system, it would be, I would draft it, I would send it to Brian, and then Brian would send it to Ben, and Ben would post it on the website. If that seems good, seems good to everybody, I think it works really well, and I'm happy to, I'm doing it anyway for the other one. I'm happy just
Do you
to
want
do
us,
it.
so
Thank
maybe
you,
we
Liz.
we don't have to give it to you right this minute? Like maybe if we give ourselves a timeline of getting them, our bullet ideas to you, or would you
I
rather
think
get
it's
it?
better while we just have had the meeting, but
Okay.
sometimes it's just looking at the agenda and like
Okay.
tonight, the handbook and the presentation from Ben and the presentation from Deke are 3 real simple
Okay.
takeaways
That sounds good.
that doesn't, and then anybody who wants to know really more can obviously find that information. So for me, the
Just keep it-
takeaways tonight, if everyone agrees with those handbook process, presentation by Ben and presentation by Deke, I could draft that and send it to
Perfect.
Ben and we could see how that feels. Is that good?
So sort of like, budget work moves forward, sort of thing from her presentation.
Great.
And then,
Well, and then
The teasers.
and then somebody
Like-
says, "Oh, Deke gave a budget," and if they're interested, they can watch it on
Okay.
RETN. Thank you,
That sounds good.
RETN.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does everybody think that sounds?
Yeah.
Everybody likes those 3 items? Okay.
Great.
Well, I believe,
We're close to adjourn. I just add that Mr. Travers and I are attending the state board meeting tomorrow morning on this board's behalf. And we will include that in a future agenda topic as far as the outcome of that meeting with the Franklin West Supervisory Union's request to change regional tech service regions, technical center service regions. So
that meeting is tomorrow, you just said?
tomorrow morning, 10:30 is the agenda?
10:30, we're on the agenda, and it's listed as a decision point, so.
Oh,
all
you
right.
read my mind. I was wondering
Good.
if that word came up, decision.
I
Great.
don't think they can table it, I think their rules require that they come with a decision. to be
Tomorrow.
tabled at once.
Good.
Wow, good.
So, if you're interested, which I would say don't do it, but there's a 10-page report from the Agency of Education whose recommendation continues to be that that the state board not allow the request
Deny it.
and deny it, and all the reasons that we put forward in our letter, they're playing the same notes. Some of the data is different because you can cut the numbers different ways depending on how you count the FTEs. We're gonna reinforce some of the things we want the state board to know through testimony, but really, all of the work has been done and it's up to them to make the decision. But it would
Here's
be,
hoping.
it would be a $640,000 hit to my budget if they allow it to happen. And more importantly for me, I think, it limits access to kids to choice, because what essentially they'll do is take away choice of both a half-day model tech center and a full-day model tech center, and only allow students in Franklin County to have a half-day model. And last year, 63% 3 families chose a full day level coming from Franklin West.
Yeah,
So Bob's prepared his testimony on that phase. Part of the conversation, my testimony is centered around Act 46, similar to the House the Vermont House Committee presentation I provided in November, saying that while the playing field is changing with Act 46, it's not a good time to make any changes in regional tech service areas. And in addition to that, not to make them independently. Like, look at all of the technical center service regions, don't look at just one. So we'll keep you abreast of
Yes,
that.
can you send us like a?
And I'm
Forget.
sorry I forgot, because
Emojis, something.
I
Thumbs
should
up.
also say it was an honor to be at Vermont Principals Association Conference in August and see Principal Robert Travers receive his Outstanding Tech Director of the Year award.
Congratulations.
Gave a very moving speech, made us all very proud. Our team was there, so there was a lot of rooting in the background.
Good.
But it's a lot of moving parts right now, folks. Doing our best, and I can't say this ever enough, that between Principal Reardon and Principal Travers, we are aligned with safety procedures moving forward, both physical safety, and you saw the changes in our safety crisis manual, and their work throughout this entire campus to assure safety and an emotional safe environment for all of our students. So they're to be commended for that leadership, and it's never been this tight. I'll say that for sure.
That's great, and kind of along the lines of safety, but also curb appeal. I really like, because I've lived near here, and I would walk through. I kind of saw it evolve over the summer, and I think it really enhances the front of the building, and I also think you can see where it would, I think, be safer, because you don't have, people can't just, it kind of gives it, so I think it came out really nicely. Yep.
That was good.
Yep.
Good work.
Yep. That's great.
Now, there are also a couple meetings, I think, coming up, or different events. So Friday, right, there's the convocation.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Please tell me. Yeah, that's.
If you need more
Please tell me if you plan to attend, because I am reserving seats for you, and I would love to introduce you, because we're all going to be there. So, Liz, Daniel, Liz, Daniel, Al can't be there either.
That's always a tough time.
Okay, I know. Okay, Liz, Daniel, and I'll check with Brian. Thank you for bringing that up. And also the VSBA conference is coming up in October, so it's important to register early and get rooms.
Is that
so-
still the last, it's usually the last
It's
couple
October
days?
23rd and 24th.
Oh, it's earlier.
Before Election Day.
Yeah. So again, just send if you are planning to attend, let Ben know so he can register you
And open house is
September 22nd.
for
Thursday.
both. And you both presenting at 6?
6 to 6:45 in the auditorium.
And we don't mind it shorter because I love public presentations, but, yeah, about the same time. We're gonna open at the same time at 6 o'clock. So, and I'm sure we'll have a soccer game or
Oh,
a
of course.
football game.
Always.
Or something.
Bring more cars.
And you'll do the cafeteria,
September 22nd.
cafeteria and auditorium, okay.
Auditorium.
Auditorium,
Yeah.
yeah, the INS group.
Just quickly, do board members think they can make that? I'll be there. Okay.
I don't know. if
Well,
I
you're
know.
you're doing the,
Okay.
you can't do everything. But you want to.
Picture of you on stick.
Is there anything else from anybody before we adjourn? Then we can accept a motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay.
Second.